from Size Matters RC here, and this is where we left off during the unboxing. Everything's separated. We have the body separated, still in the original packaging and in the box. We'll get to that in a future video. Right now, we're gonna tackle the chassis, and we're gonna go over how we start a build. And just for reference, I'm gonna be going off the website for the instruction manual for my purposes, and I'll be going over page by page. I'll tell you what page I'm on and what I'm doing as I go. So for this video's purposes, page 1 in the book tells you about your license plate and your vehicle's chassis plate and your number. For this video's purposes, our truck is unnumbered, is AWB Link, and our chassis plate, which yours will also be, in your receiver box. So if you're trying to locate your chassis plate and you're excited to go register your vehicle online, you can register the vehicle. That would be on Boom Racing's website. You register your vehicle. It's pretty awesome, okay? And you would have a chassis plate in there. This would have your vehicle's VIN number, as it were. So your chassis number. Mine is unnumbered, so yours will have a number. Moving forward here, page 3 is gonna have your equipment required, things like 3-channel radio, battery, charger, ESC, steering servo, and a motor. You do not need the 2-speed servo. That is included in the box. Now, I know, moving forward, it is gonna be page 13. We'll start the build process. Everything between is just what's in the box. It's a listed description and detail of, and part numbers of all the parts. So right off the bat, it says we're gonna need bag A chassis. Well, what's bag A? Well, you grab your bag of hardware. In here, you're gonna have labeled bags. Spares, they always give you a ton of spare screws, parts. It's amazing building one of these trucks. If you lose something, don't worry, you probably have a double. Unless it's something hefty, like an axle. If you lose an axle, you're beat. They're not giving you a spare axle in the box. We have bag H, bag D. We're looking for bag A. So let's dump that out, we'll put this aside. Bag B, there's bag A, hiding in the back. All right, so we have bag A here, flipped the right way. And what I do with the hardware is I will take out what it tells me I need in the instructions and then put everything else back in the bag. I try to keep these bags organized and together because the next page could say I need bag B. Well, if I've mixed up bags A and B, it just gets annoying to have to sit there and figure out what goes where, measure hardware, figure out what's what. I keep them organized. I always put them back in the bag. You could do as you please. You can mix them all together if you want. I like to stay organized and keep them in the bags. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this chassis process. We're on page 13, putting the first couple things on, and I'll let you know how this goes when we come back in a second. All right, before we get started here, let me just tell you what I'm doing. So chassis rails, right? Servo mount, shock towers, motor mounts, okay? These are all the things that we're gonna be doing on page 13, as well as parts from bag A that is labeled chassis. The directions are super, super clear, easy to follow, and I'm just gonna continue doing pages, and as I come up with tips or tricks, I'll start the camera up again and tell you guys what I'm thinking and what I'm doing as I'm working. All your parts are gonna be in this. What I like to do is anything that has like a home, I tend to leave it in there. Anything that's packaged in the side or that is loose, I always go ahead and put everything out on the table so that way I'm nice and organized and it's visible and I can see what I'm doing. And then as the build progresses, this will get moved to the side, the chassis will go in front of me. I like to be very organized doing this, and I think it lends itself to a better build, especially when you're working with such a high quality truck. See, this is a perfect example of thoughts that pop into my head and why I want to do this and tell you things as I go along. I started putting the shock tower on, the left shock tower, And I grabbed my first screw and went, well, how do they know what size is what? Because this bag has a whole bunch of mixed sizes in it. Well, Boom Racing has these, which measure your hardware, or sometimes if you have a 3D printer, you could print yourself something like that or find one for sale somewhere. But also in the instruction manual, all the hardware photos are to scale. So you could just take your hardware, line it up on the page, and that's the one you need. All right, so I just also want to remind you that as you're working on something like this, always remember to take out your thread locker and just apply a little bit of thread locker to anything that might be a metal to metal connection, all right? And it doesn't get any easier because in your kit, they also give you, I mean, it says it on it, badass thread locker. Why not use it? If you like companies like CalRC, who we work on their mats and everything all the time, they also sell thread locker. There's plenty of options for a quality thread locker, but guess what? Boom provides it for you, so you can use the stock one if you so choose, which is what I'm doing right now. And I have these all ready to go. Boom, look at that. All right, so that's the start of something. We have life. So after page 13, this is what we have, and that would be the left side, and this is the right side. So the only difference between the left and the right is obviously left and right, and the right side has the 2-speed servo mount on the rear. So let's move on. Page 14, we're moving on. We are adding the chassis rail sections. This is the adjustable part of the chassis rails. So far, pretty much the same build as the linked version, I'm sorry, the leaf version, but pretty soon we're gonna start getting to these bad boys, which make this truck completely different. But in here, we're still working off bag A, chassis, hardware, so I still have that all laid out. And we need these rails, and there is a bag that has the washers and stuff in it. We're gonna need that as well. So definitely pay attention to the page. And speaking of paying attention to the pages, each page has little exclamation points with information, right? Little information bubbles. One is a screw with a lock, reminding you to apply thread locker in very specific places. Like I said, any metal to metal connection that you do not want to come loose, thread locker. Right here, there's an exclamation point. Ooh, I can't talk. It says suggested screw hole locations on the rear rails to accommodate optional chassis length configurations. I can't talk, that's okay. So for different lengths, it shows you all the different configurations you can do with these chassis rails because they can move forward and back, right? Move forward and back. All right, so we are gonna put these to where it says, where it's suggested for the ZIL body, because that's the body that we're gonna be putting on this truck for now. Okay, so we have the right side done. This is set for 2 millimeters. The washers and the spacers are in there. Now, just pay attention when you're doing this. They are ribbed. They do have teeth that drive together to lock this in place. You'll see what I'm talking about. So definitely use thread locker in here, and definitely make sure that those teeth are meshed together so that way this thing can't adjust itself out. Page 14 is done, and now we have a full chassis rail, left and right, set to the proper adjustment for the ZIL body. And like I said, they include adjustments and adjustment markers on page 14 on where you want to be for different lengths. However, we're using the ZIL body, so we're going with the recommended 2 millimeter spacing. Now, page 15, chassis. So these are all parts that we're gonna need for the next part. All right, so page 15 is parts needed, page 16 is the build. So let me go separate everything. All right, we'll move the box out of the way because now we're at the point where this chassis is gonna start going together, and I want everything to be laid out here so that way I can work normally, okay? And have the most space available. This is how I work anyway. So you're gonna have parts bag, and it's gonna have cross members in it. So you're gonna have a total of 4 cross members, your center link mount, and then your skid plate. Don't go crazy looking in the box for the skid plate. It is already mounted to the center link mount. So you have the skid plate inside the link mount. It's held in by 2 screws. So they are together, but they are separate on the parts list. Just a food for thought. You're also gonna need chassis left and right side brackets. Here, they're also in the box, in the foam, and the servo mount. All right, now we move on to page 16, and we are still working in bag A chassis, so we're not gonna put that away yet. I still have my screws out, and it looks like it says pre-assembled skid plate. It looks like we're gonna leave that alone for now. So I'm gonna go assemble all these, follow the instructions, and I'll let you know if I have any issues. Okay, remember at the beginning I said pay attention to the instructions? Well, this is where it comes into play. Sometimes there's mistakes with the instructions, and sometimes you miss things. And sometimes the things that you miss are just visual things. So when I build, I usually try to build and I will put all my pieces on one side, and then I will bring my other chassis rail and put all the screws in to match everything, right? Well, I was looking at the center skid here, and I was like, you know what? You could put this on backwards by accident. So just remember the left side, the left rail, right? It's marked left on the shock loop. It's the left side of the truck if you hold it forward. That's the side that gets the holes on the skid. So holes left, all right? So just a little food for thought. Pay attention to the pictures and pay attention to everything that's on the page. So that way you don't get this whole truck built and say, I put that on backwards because I wasn't paying attention. Pay attention now. Once again, pay attention. When you get to the front here, so everything's mounted, and when you get to the front here, the servo mount, pay attention to what holes it goes in, and also pay attention to the screw size. The screw size is different than all the hardware on here. That is an M2.5 countersunk. So just pay attention. Some screws are countersunk, some are regular, and some are 2.5s like the servo mount. And you have to pay attention what holes they go in. It is clearly marked in the instructions, but if you don't pay attention to the instructions, you will probably jack it up. Don't jack it up. What's this? Well, we got both chassis rails together. We got everything in. We got the side connectors in. Everything's ready to go. So that's the end of page 16 there. Next, we move on to the gearbox. So gearbox is page 17. So that's gonna end this episode, episode 1 of this build series. So we have a sitting chassis right now. Here we go. Ready to go be badass on episode number 2. Oh, and one last thing before I forget. If you finish pages and at the end, like me, I have 2 M3 by 6 screws left. Well, what I do is I'll put them back in chassis A bag, because you never know if this bag's gonna pop up again in the future in the build. So chassis A goes to the side. And now we're ready to go. Enjoy being a badass, everybody.